What's up, everybody? This is Jay, and this video is about the Godfather of Harlem Season 2, Episode 4, the Gichi. Now, this is about Bumpy, and he's doing good. He's making that bread. The money's rolling in good, so good that he done bought himself and built himself up a club named the Gichi. And so when it kicks off, we see him and Chin and they partnership really doing well. They chilling. They even sitting in the Gichi having drinks, talking business, and then all of a sudden, if something goes wrong and it just, piss on the man's parade. So if you're new, subscribe, hit that like, let's get into it. Now, when we see the episode kicks off, we see Bump and Chin sitting there talking, enjoying a drink or two while they inside the Gichi, and he's telling Bump, hey, what does the Gichi mean? He said, well, it's, my ancestors, and they were rebellious against their slave masters. He said, oh, so that's where you get it from, huh? Okay, explains it all. And he said, oh yeah, you should get you a club. Make it the upstairs, downstairs. Call it double chins. He said, oh, okay, double chins. Hey, fuck you, Bumpy, all right? And so then he gets word from one of his goons that something's wrong at the spot where they do the dope, bag it up. So they look at each other and know, uh-oh, let's go check it out. So they immediately leave, and once they get there, they see that one of their men, each one was hanging by a noose from the ceiling. So they get him down, and they sitting there trying to decide, what is this? They saying, well, nobody knew who it was. And the Frenchman was there. He said, hey, I don't need to do this. I've been moving dope all these years. I'm careful. He said, it's got to be one of the bosses. They didn't take anything. It was here to make a statement. And he said, what do you mean it was one of the bosses? Why would they do that, huh? He said, they didn't want to do the deal with you. He said, yeah, but now they see how much money we making. It was only a matter of time. I expected something to happen. Prepare for anybody to make a move soon and make an offer. And so it got Chin thinking about, damn, are the bosses really coming at me like that? Meanwhile, while Bumpy was gone, we see Clayton Powell come in, and he come in with Miss Vanderbilt on his shoulder, and he then tells her, hey, we wasn't coming here to see Bumpy, we was coming to see his wife. And she like, oh snap, really? And of course he don't know that she was sleeping with Bumpy. And so the wife, we see Mamie sitting there sipping on a little champagne, having a good time, when all of a sudden here come the white lady that almost stole her man away. And so she like, yeah, I know who she is. He like, well, let me introduce you, Miss Johnson. This is Miss Vanderbilt. She's here to help and, pursue the Negro cause. And she said, oh, so she's going to talk about this on the Ed Sullivan show. He like, what does she know? She ain't black. And she was basically, saying she didn't need her help. And she's like, you know what? It's okay. It's no big deal. And he's shocked because he don't know what just happened. And then she walk off. So he wondering why was there beef between the two. Meanwhile, we see Betty Shabazz, and she in there cooking a bunch of food. And Brother Malcolm say, man, why you cooking so much? It smell good. She say, well, the nation cut off the phone bill, and I figured this would be next. And now also they sent this. And then he looks and see and reads that this is a letter saying that he got a love child with Elise, Bumpy Johnson's daughter. And he's saying, this is a lie. And she said, which part? All of it is a lie. She said, well, why would they do that? So that we would argue, so that there would be tension and drama to cause discord. And she said, so you don't have any relationship with her at all? He said, no, I don't have anything. Yeah, I know her, but we are not having an affair, and we don't have kids. She is not pregnant with my child. He tried to grab her hand, but she pulled away, so she kind of in her heart don't know what to think. Meanwhile, we see Stella, and she talking with Ernie, and she's in the park smoking a little square. And then he's saying, they going to put this little plan together. Hey, I'm just going to tell your dad that, Benny went to Florida and he got some little hot number or something. And when he doesn't come back, then, who knows. But you make sure you don't tell anybody, all right? You hear me? Did you tell anybody? And she's saying, no, I didn't tell anybody. He said, we got to keep this secret to our grave. All right. And meanwhile, Bumpy, he's back at his business. All of a sudden, his right-hand man come up and tell him, you was right, Bumpy. Here come the boss. He want to come here and talk. And then all of a sudden, we see is Bonanno. He done pulled up. And so now he's here. He want to talk with Bumpy. And so he said, you know what, Bumpy? I am a man enough to admit when I was wrong. And you was right. The 10 Harlems, it's a really good deal. It's a good idea. Hey, I want in. All right. And then Bumpy say, hey, I already got a partner. Me and Chin. He say, you know what? Chin, he's about to be finished. He's a chauffeur, okay? He's not ready for it, okay? What is he splitting it with you? 50-50? That's what I figured. He said, yeah, well, loyalty means something to me too. He said, well, you know what? I'll do 60-40 with you, okay? And I give you a day to reconsider. I gotta give it to you. You're pretty smart for a nigger. And so Bumpy a little salty because now, he real disrespectful. And he gave him the option to come in the first place and he denied him. And so now he's saying, hey, look, don't worry. We'll take care of Chin. Think about the deal, okay? And so Bumpy, he's loyal. He want to stick with Chin, but now he know who pretty much came after them and set him up. On the other end, we see that Chin, one of his old time friends, is now popped up at his house trying to look at old pictures and go down memory lane. Chin got a little one eye open on his ass the whole time. He like, yeah, your wife, she's still looking good. My wife, she really let herself go. And he's saying, hey, you want a drink? He said, all right. So while they talking, he said, hey, look, let's talk business. Hey, the bosses, they want to come at you, okay? It wasn't us. That was them that came at you. I heard about the problem at the warehouse. He like, how'd you hear about that? He said, hey, I hear. But here's the thing. Let me and Banano partner with you, and we can help protect you against the other bosses. Those other families are strong. Let's have a drink. And so he got Chin looking side-eyed because now Chin know that he full of it. And he said, hey, where's that picture of you with that hat again? And so then he see the hat start laughing or whatever. So they go way back. But now Chin know this dude is shady working with Banano to come take part of the business. And so when they leaving, then we see Bumpy's men are spying on him, and he said, look at these guineas. They always try to talk all that hard stuff, but as soon as they get around each other, they start smooching. He said, hey, don't you try that with me. He said, man, what I look like? I ain't no dang on guinea. I ain't smooching. Meanwhile, we see at 22 West that Malcolm is meeting up with Elise, and so she's sitting there talking, and he showed her the letter, and she's like, who would write something like this and why? He said, well, they trying to, cause problems and discord, so you need to be careful. And she said, well, when you start your own movement, I'm going to be there with you. He said, well, I got something to ask of you. I want you to stay there a little longer. It will be dangerous. But she said, I'll do it. I'll stay. And he said, well, it is a dangerous position, and I hate to ask you, but I do need some eyes and ears inside that mosque. And she said, I'll stay, brother, but when you do start your own sect, I will be there with you. Meanwhile, we see Mamie Johnson working at, Powell's office, and she trying to get the little voter registration stuff together. And then he come and say, well, Miss Johnson, may I talk with you for a moment? And she said, yeah. He said, what happened the other day? And she said, is it anything? And she said, well, that she was writing love letters to my husband while he was in jail. He said, well, I guess that does explain it. And she said, yeah. Well, he said, but she's one of the good ones now, man. You know what Jesus said. Now let me talk to you in my office. So they come and talk in the office, and he said, now, this lady is one of the good ones. She's here trying to progress the, equal rights and civil rights movement. And is it anything I can do to get you two to work together? And she said, well, I just don't see how she can help and why we need a white woman to be talking about our civil rights. And he said, well, because she needs to talk to white folks, and that's who we need to listen. And then she said, so because she got money, she got the right to talk. And she said, I'm sorry, it's just not very Christian to me. He said, well, what would Jesus do? She said, well, the Romans did nail him to the cross. And he said, yeah, and he forgave him. Meanwhile, we see that Banano is sitting there with the pastries, and he telling him he don't want no pastries. He want to know what's going on with what, Chin said. And he said, don't worry, I'll get Chin around. He said, he's a dumb chauffeur. He don't know what he got. And so he's basically, these two are working together. Meanwhile, we see Ernie, and he's playing pool, and all of a sudden here comes Stella walking in. Hey, can I talk to you for a moment? And so then they go for a walk, and she said, I did talk and tell somebody about what happened, but I didn't think it was that big of a problem. You think it's that big of a problem? He said, yeah, that's that big of a problem. Your dad will kill any and everybody that has something to do with it or knows about it. And she said, well, you got to promise me you won't do anything to her. And he said, who is it? And so she tells him that it was her boyfriend's mother. And she said, but you got to promise me that you won't hurt her. And she said, I promise, but just make sure that that's all you said. Meanwhile, we see Powell, and he's sitting there and he's reading the letter that was sent to Malcolm. And he said, well, is any of it true? He said, come on, brother, that ain't true. He said, well, I understand. It always hurts when somebody digging through your backyard garbage. And it happened to me, but in my case, it was true. Nevertheless, this is pretty messy. And he tried to pour a little drink, and he said, it's unfortunate what's going on for you, and I pray for you, brother. And he said, you need to be careful. And he said, well, why should I have to worry? I got the FBI sitting out in front of my house there for my protection every day, right? He said, no, they're not there for your protection. They there to protect against you. You better be careful, brother. They coming after you. Meanwhile, we see Miss Vanderbilt walking in with the fur into 22 West, and everybody looking at her like she Frankenstein or something when she walk up in there. And so they all looking like she a ghost, and now she feel a little out of place, but she walk on over and talk with Mamie, and she said, I appreciate you for going ahead and meeting with me. And she said, well, I'm not here for you, and I'm not here to talk about my husband down memory lane. We hear about civil rights and the movement. And she say, well, I just wanted to let you know, just to clear the air, that that's ancient history. She said, I understand. So, because what do you want to talk about? And she said, well, I'm going on Mike Wallace, and I wanted to talk about how the women's movement and, civil rights are similar. She said, well, that's not exactly the case, but nevertheless, we can go ahead and talk, and I can help you. You read this book, you read that book. Well, come on back to my house. You got some reading to do. Meanwhile, we see Elise getting grilled like she in court at the Supreme Court when she get back to the mosque, and everybody is asking her, Captain Henry and everybody, if she follow Malcolm X and what she believe in. They gonna throw her out, and she said, no, I don't believe it. I follow the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And then we got little women in the background, everybody sitting there, and while she trying to prove her point that she still got her loyalty there, little Harriet Tubman busts out, I don't believe her. And you see Big Brother Almighty standing there, and he listening to the whole thing. And so she's saying, look, regardless of what you think, everybody here had looked at him at one point or another, and they think she was defending him. She said, but he doesn't listen to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and he's a fool. Now, the prophet, he's here, and what he says, is what we go by and what I believe in. And Brother Malcolm has been leading people astray, and I'm no longer, interested in what he has to say. And so she laid out a little game right quick and convinced him, and he said, all right, you can stay, but believe me, you will be met with severe consequences if you are to be associating with Brother Malcolm again. Meanwhile, we see Bumpy, and he's sitting in the office chilling when all of a sudden his men come and give him the report that Chin had Magliocco and Bonanno, and they was working together. He saw Magliocco leave from talking with Chin, then go to Magliocco. They say, what you want to do, Bump? Bump pull out the pistol. Come on. Let's go ride over and take a ride real quick. And so next thing you know, we see Magliocco, and he's sitting there and he talking with Chin, and they are talking about the business or whatever the case, and talking about, all right, so hey, look, it's time to give the families a taste. And then Bump come in, hey, you dirty bastard, what are you doing here? And so then we see Chin, hey, Bumpy, wait a minute. Hey, you can't just walk in here doing that. It's time. We had a good run. Now it's time to give the families a taste. What you gonna do business with them? After all that we done did, what happened to our partnership? He said, look, what we did was okay, but we was wrong for not giving the families a taste. It's time to cut the families in, all right? Hey, they'll kill my family. I don't want that. I don't want a war, all right? And so Bumpy is sitting there, and he's pissed. And Magliocco sitting there like nodding and going along. He said, look, I don't know about this. We put this together. We did all this work, and now they just go come and take a piece. And he said, hey, who do you think you are? You lucky we let you have any of that money, huh? And then he said, who the hell you talking to, huh? And so now they all get a little testy. Everybody, you know, get their little balls in a bunch. Everybody grabbing the straps, got them pointed. And he said, who are you talking to, huh? We put this together. I came to them. They didn't want to do business. Now that we doing good and making money, they want a piece. And Chin said, come on now. We had our run. We did good. Now it's time to get the families in. It's only right. That's how you do business. I don't want a war. You want them coming after your family, huh? You want to have to protect your family and have to worry? And so now Bumpy realizing, okay, it is deep. And so Chin is telling him, hey, we don't want no beef. We gonna give the families a taste. He basically is showing Magliocco that he gonna control Bumpy and bring him on board for the 10 Harlems. And so they want the money. Bumpy outnumbered. Chin know he outnumbered. They got a war possibly on their hands that neither one of them want. And so he telling them, all right, look, we'll talk later. You all leave. And we'll talk and meet up. Where you want to meet up? And he gave a spot. And he said, no, you come and meet up where I am, at the GEECHEE. And so he said, all right, we'll meet there, okay? I understand. We'll talk. And so Magliocco's smiling because he feel like, okay, I got Chin on board. Chin done check Bumpy. Me and Banano about to get a piece of this money and come up off of their ass. And everybody pissed, but they don't know the master plan. Meanwhile, we see Junkies tweaked out and Elise still there trying to help him when all of a sudden Big Brother Almighty walks on up and he said, what you said in there, I understand what you mean. Let me talk to you. He said, when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said he wished that Malcolm would go away, I think I know what he means. And so she stand up. She said, what are you talking about? He said, you know, the message within the message? I got it. And don't worry. You won't have to worry about him being a liar any much longer. It's going to be all taken care of. So the next thing you know, we see her at Brother Malcolm's house, and Betty opens the door. And so she like, can I help you? And so then she say, yeah, I'm here to see Malcolm. And so she let her in. And so she say, are you here for him? Are you the one in the letter? And she say, yeah, I am Elise, but I did not write that letter. And she say, yeah, but you are in love with him. I can see it all in your face. She say, no, I respect him a lot. He changed my life, but we do not have a relationship. And so Betty and her, they kind of having a little moment, and Betty could see that she do have strong feelings for Brother Malcolm, but she can see now also that it's not a sexual relationship and that she is not pregnant by him. And she said that his life in danger. She say, well, people throw brick through the window and his life and threats is in danger all the time. She say, but this is different. And Brother Malcolm walk in and he like, so what's going on? She say, I believe they're trying to kill you, brother. And so her and Betty look, and she tell her that his life in danger. And so now he like, okay, he ain't say nothing, but you can see in his face it's getting real. Meanwhile, we see back at Bumpy house that you know, Miss Vanderbilt and Mamie is sitting there talking, and she putting the game on her about how, yeah, women's rights ain't the same as civil rights, because even as a woman, I'll still be black and won't have these benefits, whereas you'll have the benefits after you get this woman's rights. Bumpy walk in, he like, what is this? What is going on here? And so Mamie ain't saying nothing. She's sipping on a little tea to wait to see what he say. And so then Vanderbilt is quiet. And so he's like, what's going on here? Huh? And so then she say, well, Miss Vanderbilt is here, and I'm telling her about women's rights. And she say, go ahead and tell her. And so she breaks it down about how, you know, women, black women of color shouldn't be treated a certain way, and women rights is different than, you know, civil rights. And she say all this good game, and he says, you know what? That sounds really good. I think you should say it. And she said, she's going on Mike Wallace to say it in a couple days. He said, no, not her, you. And so it had Mamie sitting there thinking for a second. Now Bumpy then put the game on and did the little switcheroo and said, instead of having her do it, why don't you say it? And that's basically using her platform, Vanderbilt, as a way for Mamie to say what need to be said. Meanwhile, we see Teddy's mama, and she's on the top of the roof doing her laundry, and then all of a sudden, here come Ernie, sneak up behind her, scared the bejesus up out of her, and she like, what are you scared me? And he got a suitcase. He said, hey, here's $5,000, okay? You need to leave, okay? And she's like, I'm not leaving. This money, this is blood money. No amount of money can bring my boy back. And he said, hey, you need to get out of town. It's not safe for you here anymore. She said, I'm sorry, but this is blood money, and I can't profit off the death of my boy. And I'm not leaving. This is my home. He said, don't you got family or something? You need to go spend time with them. It's not safe. And she said, I'm not leaving. Next thing you know, he had the revolver to her head. She said, okay, all right, I'll leave. I'll take the money. I'll leave town. I'll go. And that changed her mind real quick. Meanwhile, we see that the FBI sleep on the job in front of Malcolm's house while Big Brother Almighty P sneaking in, get into Malcolm's car, was putting a bomb under there. So Malcolm come with the revolver to his head, and he said, brother, my wife drive this car and my kids. Remember, the white man, he was trying to put division between us. You wanted to kill me and my wife and kids. Why? Don't be the tool that the white man trying to use to divide us. What are you doing here? Huh? This is what you all about? Look at me. Look at me. He couldn't even look him in the eye because he wasn't nothing but a straight bitch. Anyway, he told him to get the hell out of his car, and he didn't kill him. Meanwhile, dude ran away. Malcolm threw the bomb and told the FBI to tell him how well you protected me. Meanwhile, we see Bumpy and his boy say, man, how you gonna be able to trust Chin? He said, well, you never can really trust the white man. And so he goes on into the meeting, and when he walk in, the music was dope. It just don't feel right. It just don't feel right. Anyway, he go in, he got his men there, he got Chin's men there, and then it's got the bosses there, it's got Bonanno and everybody there, and so even the Frenchie is there, and so Magliocco, Chin, they all come. He said, what are you doing here? He said, I didn't want to be here, but they requested me. And so he said, so what's going on then? What's the deal? And so Chin, he's sitting there, he a little pissed, he quiet. And next thing you know, Bumpy sitting there listening while Bonanno started talking. He said, all right, we're going to take over the next shipment, and we're going to give you 10%. And he like, that's bullshit. How the hell you going to do that? He said, hey, sit down, okay? We all here to make money. It's all right, okay? And so Bumpy like, no, this is crazy. How are you going to do that and cut me and him out? You all walked away from the deal. And so, Chin, he's like, yeah, this doesn't make any sense. And he said, look, hey, we're going to do this to get our feet wet, okay? You're lucky we even let you operate this long, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to take 10% and we're going to take over the full load. We'll give you 10%, okay? And so Chin say, you know what? This don't sound right either. You all had a chance. The man came to you. You walked away. Me and him, I like the deal. We work together. In poker, we call that sour grapes, huh? He like, what are you talking about, huh? He said, hey, this guy here, why you go to him? He's been screwing me my whole life. But I thought we was friends. And the first thing you do is go partner with him, Magliocco, huh? And he said, what are you talking about? He said, that right there, it makes me question my friendship with you, huh? It makes me wonder if I can even trust you. He said, well, what are you talking about? Next thing you know, Chin just hops up, wow, puts one right between the eyes on Magliocco. He's laid out like old laundry. And next thing you know, we see that Bumpy hops up with the blade and has it right to the throat of Bonanno. And he said, go ahead. Make a move. He said, you can't kill me. He said, yeah, well, we'll see about that. He said, you make sure that you don't say nothing, or else we'll tell the other families how you tried to cut them out of the deal. And so then him and Chin, they say, yeah, you thought you was getting us? We was getting you the whole time, setting you up. And he said, now, you make sure that you keep quiet and we won't say anything either. He said, yeah, you try to come for us, you greedy bastard. We got you. And meanwhile, we see that Mike Wallace and it's at Powell's office, and they're interviewing Vanderbilt, and while she's talking and telling them about civil rights and the cause, next thing you know, we see that she passed the baton over to Mamie Johnson. And so next thing you know, Miss Johnson started talking and dropping knowledge about civil rights and women's rights, and now we see that her profile is getting elevated and that they actually making a good team together. And so while they talking and everything, then we see that, you know, Bumpy's plan is coming together as well. Meanwhile, we see back at his house, Elise and, back at Malcolm's house, Elise, Betty, and Malcolm is praying and eating together and having a little fellowship. And Bumpy and Chin is talking about what they gonna have to do moving forward now that they got, you know, banana nuts in the vice. Now it's time for real talk. This episode was really good. I really enjoyed how they showed OG's work and organized crime. A lot of this crime shows today is more street level, street drama, and it shows that Bumpy was an OG and was well rounded. Not only did he do dirt, but he also tried to look out for his people, and he also cared about civil rights, and they had a lot of real problems, real causes and things to deal with. We also see that Mamie Johnson, even though she know Miss Vanderbilt was screwing her husband, she was able to turn the other cheek and get together with her and use her platform and opportunities to elevate the civil rights movement and bring awareness to it. We also see, I like how, but I think it was dumb that Stella told Ernie that Teddy's mama knew about the murder. I don't think that she would have been in any risk if she would have just kept her mouth shut. But by her telling it, Ernie had a gun to her head. Now, for the Moscow. Visuals and cinematography and costumes was excellent as always. I'm going to give it a 20. Storyline and plot, excellent. I love how they mix in the street, mixed with civil rights. I give that a 20. Special effects, makeup, and everything was good. And I'm going to also give that a 20 with the costumes and entertainment and fun factor was definitely good. And I'm going to give that a 20 as well. I like how they showed with the cinematography, the black and white and everything mixed with the color. And overall, I give it an 80. Now, if you all are new to the channel, please subscribe, bang that bell, and I'll see y'all on the next video. Peace, and I'm out. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please hit that like, subscribe, bang that bell, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.